Hello, everybody. My name is Benny, and welcome to the Fool's Apprentice. Today, I have a special guest, Krista, all the way from her own YouTube channel. And welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. Can you please let our audience know your name, your YouTube channel, and anything else you'd like us to know?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this chat today. My name is Krista. As was mentioned, my YouTube channel is now named the Christa Chronicles, which is also where you can find me on Instagram. Um, yeah, I think that's all I've got going on.
Yeah, you recently changed your name.
I did, yes, I did at the. I don't know if I fully waited until January 1st. I meant to. I think I did it like a few days before, though.
Yeah, I think it was because you wanted your names to be cohesive on all platforms.
Well, actually, my name before was Crochet Witch Tarot, and
Mhm.
that was to keep in line with my Etsy shop, which I do still have, and is still named Crochet Witch Wares. But I just kind of realized that my YouTube and Instagram weren't really meant to be part of that Etsy shop per se. Like, I'm not using those platforms to sell anything or really like advertise anything. So I wanted to pick something that reflected a little bit more like this is just kind of about me.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So, how did you end up coming up with the names for your channel?
Oh, the Christa Chronicles, it was just that I really liked how I feel like over the past few years there's been a few people who have either come onto YouTube or have switched their usernames to include whether it's their full name or their first name. And so I knew that was something that felt important to me to include my first name somehow. And I just really like alliteration. So the word, I think I actually used Chat GBT to come up with some possible like second words to go along with it. And I liked Chronicles because it felt like this thing of I can use YouTube and Instagram as a way to chronicle
Yes.
the things I'm interested in.
I thought that actually it never even dawned on me to use GPT for uh, title names of things. I have used it
Yeah.
to prompt me with spreads like create a five uh, a tarot deck spread regarding self care in the month of May. And so it'll create one. And then what I do is I look at the questions and I kind of edit it to make it my own. But because
Yeah.
I'm still new at this and I don't know how to create spreads. So I use GPT to jumpstart me in doing
That
that.
is such a great idea. I never thought of that.
Yeah, but they really, and I mean, I don't know. I'm getting used to using it. I use it a lot
Yeah.
to help build outlines and stuff just so it gives me a path to kind of work on.
Yeah.
I don't use it and then just stick with it because then it's not authentically mine or it's not
Right.
me. So, but I'd love the idea of using it for titles of things because the title of this whole thing is chatting the tarot with. And I'm like, I'm really struggling with that. I'm like, do I like that? Do I not like that? So I might run GPT to come up with other names to see if something else comes up
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, it's a really good tool for that.
Now, how long have you been using the tarot? Like, when did you start? How long ago?
Oh, I got my first tarot deck, I want to say 2019. It was right before the pandemic hit, like, but right before. So I want to say it was 2019.
Okay. And how were you introduced to the tarot?
I actually have a coworker and friend of mine she's probably been reading the tarot for like years and years and years, and she had a tarot deck that it was just themed on. I think it was a cat one, but not one that I have, and I can't remember which one it was. But we both love cats. And so she showed that to me, and I was like, oh, what is this? I need to know more about what this tarot thing is.
2019. So you've been doing this for quite some time.
It doesn't feel like it, but yeah, I guess that's nearly probably 5 years now, yeah.
Yeah. So, did you kind of like how did you start? Do you remember your first deck and how you started like trying to work with them?
Yes.
Do you
So
have
I
it
actually
with
I have a
you?
basket of decks here just in case it came up, but my first deck was Cat
Oh, it
Tarot.
was a cat deck.
Yep. I remember it was in Barnes and Noble, and I was now familiar with like just tarot is a thing because I had no idea it was really a thing before that. I
Okay.
just didn't have any exposure to it. And so this cat on the cover looks identical to my cat.
Okay. So that's perfect.
And so I saw that and was like, well, I have to buy it.
And so did you just start studying on your own? Did you use a book? Did you watch YouTube channels? 'Cause I'm thinking 5 years ago, there must have not been a lot of them.
So I pretty much started studying it on my own because not long after buying it, we the pandemic happened.
Oh,
So I remember I lived back with my parents for like 10 weeks or so. And so it was me and my cat in my childhood bedroom. And so I would kind of just do these random readings, not knowing at all what I was doing, and heavily using just the guidebook in
hmm.
it. And then I think I had the Labyrinthos app, I want to
Oh, yes,
say.
yes. I actually go use their website quite a bit still.
Oh, yeah, me too. It's a great website. But that was what
Yes.
I did for a while. And then I joined that my friend and coworker who introduced me in the first place started a weekly just tarot group during the
Okay.
pandemic that we would Zoom every Sunday, do readings for ourselves, and just talk over kind of our interpretations of them and help each other interpret. So that was really helpful as well.
Any particular cards that you struggled with? Like for some reason it wasn't sticking?
Oh, still to this day, the court cards really just I don't know. It always takes me an extra second with the court cards. The pages and the knights, I have more of a grasp on, but when you get those kings and queens, I think because they feel extra kind of archetypal to
Mhm.
me, it's harder for me to place those into my experience and life because I'm
Oh,
seeing
okay.
it as this archetype and I'm like, okay, well now I have to like fit this into what's going on.
Yeah, I've not really delved into the court cards yet. My studies are really, really slow. I'm now able to like when I first got the Victorian romantic, I could not see the Rider-Waite Smith in it. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. Now, a year later, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see it now. So I know I'm learning it. I just don't feel like I have a confident grasp on the cards. I'm not even anywhere close to the core cards yet. So I'm always pulling out the books with them. But I'm trying to associate them with some kind of character or person that feels like that element for me.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And I will say too that I am a heavy guidebook user. I just love them. I love seeing different people's ideas, and especially since I have such a vast array of decks, I always feel like I've chosen one to use for a reading for a reason. So I'm like, well, I want to know the creator's voice in this too. It feels
Mhm.
like they're helping with this reading in a way, like depending on which deck I choose. So
I'm
I
so
will say
glad.
it's rare that I pull cards and just take them for what they are. I'm like, well, I want to read something. I want to know what the thought is here.
I'm really glad you said that because I use the guidebooks all the time. And I'm finding that sometimes, because sometimes they overlap a lot in what they mean, but every once in
Yeah.
a while, a creator will give me what I call the golden nugget that I didn't
Yeah.
know, I didn't even think about would go with a card. And so all of a sudden, that is a brand new tool or perspective that I can use for the card. And one of the guidebooks that I really like is the Tarot of the Abyss. I really
Yeah.
love that guidebook. I think I was blown away with her description of the hangman and the image of just how she saw it so differently. So, yes, the guidebooks I think are great, but I really relied on them more for meaning than, trying to add their voice to it at this point.
Yeah, which I think is completely okay because like you said, even if it's slower going, it's kind of feels more like you're taking time for it to sink in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And do you find when you do readings for yourself that you rely less on the guidebooks than compared to when you read for somebody else, especially a client?
Actually, the other way around, I would say, if I'm
Really?
doing a reading for myself, if there is a guidebook, I will always read it. I always want to know what they have to say. And I think when I'm doing a reading for myself, I think almost I tend to get in my own way with
Mhm.
it, where I need an outside perspective coming in to at least kind of give some sort of direction. And sometimes I go completely off that direction, but it's just something to do that takes me out of my own head about it. Where if I'm doing a reading for someone else, I usually pick decks where I don't feel like I need to use the guidebook.
And do you get a sense of feel of what kind of deck goes with what kind of person or some kind of question, or do you give them an array of decks that they can choose from? How do you decide on the deck that you use for a reading?
I don't think I've done one where someone's requested a specific deck. I don't have out there like a list of here's things to choose from. It depends on the kind of reading. The readings, I do have a few readings in my Etsy shop, and they're pretty specifically themed, except for like, I think there is like a 3 card reading or something. And with those categories, I have my own list in my head of like, I
Okay.
feel like these are inner child decks, and these are kind of shadow decks. And then from there, it's just kind of a feeling of I go over to that selection. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, it's this one. This is the one that has something to say today.
I do the same thing. I just did Tawny Tarot did a snail mail kind of a challenge, and so you signed up for wanting to participate, and then she pairs you up with another person, and then you do a reading, you write it out, and you mail it to each other.
Oh, how
So,
fun!
yeah, I just finished two of them. I gotta get them mailed out, but I stood in front of my shelves, and I just like waited uh, for something to speak to me, and that's how I end up like picking what cards to choose. And I do keep gender in mind, so I had a female and a male that I was paired up with, and then
Yes,
also
yeah.
they both wanted two very different things. One wanted something very general, one wanted something very career, and that also influences like the kind of decks that speak to me.
Right.
So very
Right.
cool.
'Cause some decks, I think any deck can be used for anything, but,
Sure.
like pulling out the Playful Heart Tarot for a like career or money reading, to me, it just in my head, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like,
It
I
does
just
not
can't
make
do
any
it.
sense. I agree with you. Or romance, having something like the Bohemian Gothic. Yeah, I'm thinking romance. I don't know. Not,
Right,
unless it's
right.
Halloween. Um, so I know. How long did it take you to feel like comfortable with like the cards overall? I know we're not like 100% there. You've mentioned the court cards, but when did you feel like I feel pretty comfortable with these?
Oh, hmm.
I know.
It's so because I feel like, especially since like the bulk of my beginning time with it was during the pandemic, it's like that timeline is so
Yes. Yes.
like warped in my brain. I want to say it maybe like if I started like towards the end of 2019, let's say, I feel like probably like a year and a half until it was kind of like,
Okay.
okay, I have an idea for the most part of what
Mhm.
these cards mean. And that was really, I never did any sort of formal studying. Like I didn't I had one tarot book. I don't actually know that I owned it though. I listened to it on an audiobook, but it was the oh, I think I no, I must put it away. It's the like tarot kitchen table
Oh,
tarot?
table tarot. I think I have it out. Yes, here. Ah, this one.
Yes. Yes. So I had that book, which I just love her voice in it, and it's
Yes,
like
so do
it
I.
was really good for just beginning. But other than that, I didn't really do any purposeful studying, so it was kind of like a year and a half, let's say, of just doing readings and jumping right into it, and then figuring it out from there based on what I pulled.
I really like that. I have this idea that I need to do formal studying, spend an hour with the cards, look at very like if we do the full, read 3 books, read all the full cards in that book, look at different full cards. I mean, I feel in my head that's what it should be like, but I like the fact that you just like worked with them, and I think a lot of people that's how they end up learning is just playing with the cards because that's a lot more fun and engaging than sitting with a book
Right.
and just trying to memorize.
Right, right. Especially since it started and still very much is a hobby for me and
Mhm.
something that really has just become a big interest of mine. So from the get-go, it was kind of like if I felt like it was work I had to put into it, I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
So it just the fun route was the only option for me.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, one of the reasons I really like watching your, channel is because you could see how much fun you're having. You really are enjoying the whole process. I will say, with your channel, one of the things that I find surprising, that I've enjoyed, and appreciate is, one, you take us on your trips, which I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." You and the winter, I think you went to go visit a friend of yours. You were touring the house and everything, and I'm like, "That is so very different." I don't see anybody else doing that. And the part that fascinates me the most is how eclectic, and I think I've mentioned this in my response to some of your videos, how eclectic your taste is with your cards. Like, I mean, you have a very broad taste in tarot decks.
Yes, and actually cuz I saw your comment and I didn't even realize that was the case until I read your comment. I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess a lot of these if I tried to categorize or like explain everything I have with a few words, I don't think I could." And it's like there I could single out these different pockets of styles and categories of things I like, but there are quite a few of them, and that's not even something I realized until I saw your comment about it.
Yeah, I look at other people's channels and they seem to have a kind of a taste that they like in cards. Of course, there'll be some outliers, but you really have a very diverse library of tarot decks, which you really introduced me to a lot of decks I never even would have known of because of that. And so that's another reason I like watching your channel. It's because you really
Oh,
introduced me to
thank
a lot of
you.
stuff. Um, and like, what are your favorite types of decks that you like? It looks like you really like a lot of plant and floral decks.
I do. That was a newer thing for me this
Yeah?
summer because I started gardening really full of for the first time ever. And
Mhm.
so I find that my interests in decks really tends to align with the other things I'm just happen to be doing in my life because tarot has kind of turned into this centralized interest for me. And so anything else I'm enjoying, I want to connect it back.
Oh,
So the plant and kind of flower type decks came in this summer when I started gardening, and I was like, well, I want cards like for everything I have now. Like all these plants, I want to be able to work with them in this way and bring them into this realm as well. Um, so I do really like plant flower decks. The one that's probably been the longest lasting is I love animal decks. I
yes,
really do love
I was
animal
gonna ask you
decks.
about that. What are some of your favorite, animal decks that you have? Woodland
Oh,
Warriors,
my top. Oh,
the
sorry.
the woodland
Woodland
yes,
Ward is I have that
yes.
here.
You mention that quite a bit, and every time you get super excited, and you have it right there, that's hilarious.
I love this is actually because I've been actually following along with Cozy Core Craft and I think Huga Haiji Tarot. I never say that word right. They're they have this series going of cozy cozy like capsule collections for each
Yes,
month.
yes,
And
yes.
so I started they started in January and I did that this month. And so this was the first month probably since this deck came out that I haven't used this because it wasn't in my capsule. And like I just realized that the other day and I was like, "Oh my gosh. I feel exposed." So that is a top favorite. The other one would definitely be Northern Animal Tarot. I
Oh, I
love that
love
deck
another
so
yes.
much.
I love that deck. I haven't used it as much. This is the thing. I don't know if you have a similar experience. I have I have gotten up so many decks that I can't get to them all. And so when I first started, what I would do is I would rotate them. I do 3 days with a
Mhm.
deck and then go to another deck for 3 days, and because I wanted to use them all, but I found it counterproductive to actually learning a deck. Um,
Right.
how do you manage being able to use your decks?
So I tend to the big way that I just sort of naturally categorize them is a seasonal feeling.
Yeah,
So there's a small group that don't feel like they have a true season to them, but for the most part, I can fit all of them into like this feels like spring, this feels like summer. So I rotate what I keep out based on that. And then I have shelves, I think you can kind of see them right there, where now
yeah,
part of them are the capsule collection I'm taking part in, and then the other half are just like ones that fit into the season and I probably want to use. Um, but I think the seasonal switching out tends to work for me, but I find also that I don't so much anymore put tons of pressure on myself of just because I have brought this deck in that right away I need to know it inside and out because it's just not realistic.
yeah,
I see it more as having space for both liking to collect and liking to get to know decks really well and learning them. So just for space wise, I keep out kind of just this season's decks. But then, other than that, it's kind of just what I'm drawn to use. And I have found that, especially when it comes to kind of decks I have ended up rehoming, say, years ago, because
mhm,
for the reason of like, I haven't gotten to know this, I haven't used it much yet. I don't use that as a reasoning for rehoming something anymore because I found that as long as I like it, at
yeah,
some point these decks will have their moment. And I have some decks where it's like I've had them for a year and for whatever reason all of a sudden I've come across this other interest that it fits into or this kind of reading that I can bring it into and it's like now it's having its moment and I'm really getting to know it even if it's kind of just been there for a year.
yeah. I do the seasonal as well, and what I like about the seasonal, and of course I've only had a couple, is when I bring out the decks that have been put in my closet for the season. I'm like, oh my god, I get to use this deck. I get really excited
I
because
know, it's so exciting.
I haven't seen it in a while. It's like, oh my god, I get to use that because I have some really beautiful decks for spring and
Yeah,
stuff
you
that I'm
do.
going to be able to bring out. So it feels new and fresh, even though I've had it for a while.
It does. It does. And actually, so my full time in real life job is I'm a children's librarian. And it's funny because I hear because of that, I hear a lot of parents just, of course, talking with each other, talking to me, even though I don't have that much information for them because I am not a parent myself, but just about their different techniques around everything when it comes to raising children. And one of the big tactics I hear again and again is when it comes to toys, is a lot of parents will have this bin like they keep in a closet or they keep in this like chest or something of toys, and they'll bring out a few at a time and then put away ones that they're not really seeming to use right now. 6 months later they bring it back out as like a new toy. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh, I
it's
do that
really
with myself.
smart. That's really smart. Yeah, that's basically what our own experiences. Um,
Yeah.
so I also keep like my unicorn. Do you have some unicorn decks?
Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about this because there's that tag going around right
Yeah,
now.
I just posted mine yesterday.
Oh
Uh,
my god, that's so exciting. I haven't watched it yet. That is so
yeah,
exciting. I can't wait to see. I do have some unicorn decks. One of them is the, oh my gosh, it's all around. This one's the Victorian Fairy Tarot, which
okay.
is coming out indie soon, but this
Is
was the original mass market one, and
it's
this is
coming out
probably my
indie?
number one unicorn.
Is you said it's a mass market that's coming out indie?
Yes, it's this one with the fairies.
Oh, yes,
So
yes.
this was a Llewellyn one, which is what this copy is, but there was a Kickstarter maybe almost a year ago now.
Oh, I think is it a gentleman that does it? I think I remember that one.
Yeah, the artist is uh, Gary.
Yes, yes, I
Some,
remember, and I vacillated back and forth. People were going crazy about it, really super excited, and I decided against it.
ooh, I think you might be a little bit frozen. Am I back?
You are back.
Oh, okay, good. I was hoping it didn't mess you up.
No, no, no. It's recording, and so what I get to do is at the end I get to uh, edit, and I'm using this one for the first time. It's Riverside, and
Hmm.
evidently it's uploading from both our sides, and supposedly it's going to render it and make it look perfect. This is the first time I'm using it, so we're going to
Love
see how that
that.
works. Uh, because I've tried, we're off topic, but I'm doing Riverside. I did EMUV or something like that, the last two, and then I tried StreamYard, and then after,
Oh, I've used StreamYard, yeah.
and so I'm trying all three to see which one I like the best, and
Oh,
then after
perfect.
that
Okay.
I'll be going. So we were talking about unicorn decks, and
Yes, what are your unicorn, or should I, I'm halfway, I'm like, but I want to watch the video, but no, what are your unicorn decks?
well, I'll say is that I keep them out. They're unicorn decks. So I have
Yes.
them. These two shelves are my unicorn decks.
Love that. I love your shelves.
Oh, thank you. They're on Amazon. I just wanted something simple and open. And
Yeah,
so I have to be careful because it can look very cluttered. But
I get that.
I love so many of my decks that I want them out so people can see them. Or when I'm sitting on my
Yes.
couch, I can look over and see them. This area that I'm in right now is like the dining area, but I've made it my little tarot office area. Um,
I love that.
oh, you know what? I didn't even put my lights on. I, I, it seems like every time I do a recording, I forget to do something. Like one of my videos, one of my lights goes out, so then it's half black. And then a while later, the other side goes out. Oh, look, the thumbs up came up. Then the other one goes out, and I'm like, oh, great. But you know what? I already did the video, so go.
Oh,
Or
I know.
it's one thing or another. And I've been struggling with my lighting. But do you struggle with anything when you do your videos?
The lighting was something I think I finally have something that works, but it has taken, I don't even know how long I've been on YouTube now, but it's taken till like maybe 2 months ago to
Hmm.
finally feel like I have something that works because where I have my camera set up, there's not good natural lighting,
Hmm. Same.
and I wanted something that was more like more permanent where I know this is kind of a filming station and I don't have to pull out every single piece when I want to film a video because that was something I was doing for a bit and it just I found it would make me not want to film a video because I was like, well, I don't want to go through the whole thing of setting
Mhm.
everything up. But yeah,
Yeah.
lighting was really tough.
Yeah, one that I posted yesterday, I finally feel like, "Yes, I got the lighting. I finally am happy with it." But I usually, record early in the morning when it's still dark outside or in the evening when it's dark outside.
Me too.
It's daytime right now. It's early in the morning, and the lighting looks different, so I don't it doesn't look the same, and I feel like I look like I got a sunburn. It's driving me crazy, but I'm learning how to just let it go,
No.
learning how to let it go. Just I'm gonna go off topic for a second. I went to go see someone to do some facial stuff, and I learned that there are these different levels of skin tone that certain procedures you can't do on because it can mess up your it can create blotchiness, and it's like level 1 to level 5, lighter to darker. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, I'm between a 3 and a 4, and they're like, no, you're a 4. I was like, okay, I'm a 4. I forget what it's called, but it leans over to the darker side. Which been and I don't know why, but recently people have been commenting on my skin color, which has been really interesting because my whole life no one's ever really mentioned my skin color. Someone's called me a person of color recently.
That is so interesting. Yeah, to
Yeah,
like if you've never had a comment to all of a sudden it's like, well, what's different?
yeah, what's going on? Then I had somebody who's like, "I love your tan," and I'm like, "I don't have a tan." What? And I'm
What do
like,
you mean?
it's been it's been interesting. This has happened in the last couple of months quite a bit. It's been very surprising. It cracks me
That
up.
is interesting.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. And then
Oh,
I go to, I was looking at getting some, like, skin rejuvenization, like a chemical
yeah.
peel and stuff. And even there, my skin coloring came up, which I thought was hilarious. Um,
Yes, that is interesting. And I would
yeah.
have never known that about there's certain things like you can and can't do.
Yeah, they were talking about laser resurfacing. If you
Yeah.
did that, it could really affect the manila in the skin, and you can
Yeah.
create blotchiness on your skin after the procedure and stuff. I was like, wow, okay. Well, none of that, please.
Yeah. No thanks.
Um, so your YouTube channel, when did you kind of think, I want to create a YouTube channel? Did anything kind of spark that thought?
Oh, I want to say I'm trying to even think when I started watching YouTube because I don't think I started watching YouTube until like 2021
Mm-hmm.
and I just didn't know that tarot tube was a thing.
Yeah,
I
me too.
didn't really I don't and how it came up was when I was learning to crochet. So that was 2021 somewhere in there. And I am not really a big TV show watcher. I just sometimes when things are like too long, I just can't pay attention that long. And so
Yeah, I'm the same.
I was also playing Pokemon at the same time. So I was watching people play this new Pokemon game on YouTube while I was crocheting. And then it came up where this was also when I kind of got a little bit more into the collecting decks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what deck it was, but I remember looking it up and thinking like, well, I kind of want to see more. I don't want to just buy it because up until that point it was just kind of going to the bookstore or the metaphysical store somewhat near me and just picking one
Mm-hmm.
blindly a little bit. I was like, well, there's got to be pictures online, and I googled whatever the deck was, and it was it came up with videos, and it was Lisa Papez's
Um,
walkthrough of whatever deck it was. And I was like, oh, cool! Like people post videos showing all the cards. This is awesome. And then I watched that video, and I was like, that was so fun. Are there more? And of course, at that point, she'd been doing YouTube for years, so there was like hundreds of walkthroughs. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but like
yeah.
there was a lot of walkthroughs. And I went through and just for fun watched every single walkthrough she did. And then I was like, okay, so she can't be the only one. So who else is doing this? And I spent a good probably 6 months or so just enjoying it and not really thinking like it's a possibility that I could also post a video. And I think it was I'm not remembering the name of the deck. It's not one I actually have anymore, but it was a mermaid deck. It's an indie mermaid deck that's a bit more pip style. I can't think of what it was, but it had just come out when I ordered it, and it came in, and I was like, "Oh, there's not really a walkthrough of this up yet. Like, maybe I should just do it." And so that was the first video I ever put up. And then after that, there was that big tag going around of only 10 decks.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, I want to get in on that. And from there, it just
Kind of took
became
off.
so much fun.
And did your channel start with just your name? And then you figured slowly out what you wanted to get a title name?
Oh, my first channel name was Adventures in Metaphysics. That was the original name because I had a shared Instagram account with that coworker and friend who also likes tarot. We decided we kind of wanted to start posting on Instagram about it, but we were both nervous. So we
Mhm.
started an Instagram together, and that we did that for like a year until I was like, well, I want to post this YouTube video. So I asked, I was like, is it okay if I use our name because I don't know what else to put? And she was okay with it. So that was the original YouTube handle.
I've been very lucky. Mine, I had a different name. And then what I was thinking is that you never know what's going to happen. So maybe I should get the domain name and all that other kind of stuff as well, just in case,
Yeah.
because you never know where it's going to go. And somebody else had the name. It was something, the fool something or other. I couldn't remember. I can't remember what it was. I'd have to go back to my second video uh, to remember. And so I was forced to think of something else. And then the Fool's Apprentice
Oh,
came in my head. And I was just like,
I love that channel name.
yeah, and it was because I'm brand new and I don't have a clue what I'm doing. And I'm going on this journey with the fool. So who am I to him? I'm his apprentice. So that's. But
Yeah, I love that.
I'm always interested to hear how people come up with their names. Some
Oh, me
people just,
too. I always want to know.
yeah, I just came up with just had a thought and it happened. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Very simple. Other people like changed 20 names by the time they find the one that they feel fits.
I know, it's all different.
And have you gone back to look at your first video to see what it looks like compared to now?
I haven't. I actually, I have like a thing. Like, I can't watch myself. I just can't do it. You know that whole thing where it's like your voice sounds so different to yourself than
Mhm.
it really sounds? And something about that is so jarring to me
It is
that
so off-putting.
I rarely like I it would have to be something where it's like I dropped my camera or something where I'll even go in and truly edit my videos because I'm like I just I can't do it. So I go in and I add the little fade feature between clips if there's multiple clips,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's all I'll do. So I don't really go back and watch my own videos or really kind of even remember what I say in them half of the
Yeah.
time. Which is always fun then when if like I get comments on the video about things I've said, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot I said that."
Yeah, I have gotten used to hearing my voice, so it's not as
Yeah.
jarring, but I would remember I would, like, hear my voice on a voice message, and I'm like, "Do I really sound like that?"
You sound like
When I'd be, like, talking to is this do I sound like this? 'Cause the computer the machine has to be changing my voice, and they're like, "No, that's your voice." And I hated my voice, hated it. But now I'm used to hearing it because I edit and I have to do stuff. But that would be
Yeah.
interesting. You know what would be interesting if you did this is play your first video and your response to your first video, recording yourself. and then do a commentary. I think that would be a lot of fun.
That would be so fun. And there are some channels. They weren't tarot channels. I think it
Right.
was some like witchy channel
Mhm.
I follow. And she did that recently where she is big on TikTok. And so I don't know when they started their YouTube, but they went back and were rewatching their very first TikTok videos they put out, and it was probably like two only like 2 or 3 years later, but how much they've changed and being like,
Yeah.
I can't believe I was giving that advice. Like, oh my gosh.
But I
It's
think that would
so
be a fun
fun.
video. I think that would
That's a great idea.
yeah, and then you can just comment on it and whatever comes up because I've seen several of those. I've seen a couple of people do them. Some drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race will watch
Yes.
their videos. Will watch their season or like their entrance and the challenges they did, and they laugh at themselves and they commentate. And I think those are really fun because they get to see what they were like, and sometimes they're utterly mortified by themselves.
Oh, that is a great idea. I should do that because I can only imagine what that first walkthrough was like. Because I can remember filming it, and I did so many takes of it because I didn't know I could
Mhm.
edit if I needed to, and it just I think I was using just the overhead room lights, and I just used my phone to film it, which usually is great quality,
Yeah,
but it was an older phone at that point, so it probably wasn't.
and
Oh boy.
now compared to now, do you set up a schedule for yourself? Do you kind of brainstorm ideas of like series that you want to do? What does that process look for you now when you do your videos?
So I don't tend to have too much of a schedule for myself. It all kind of depends. There are days of the week where it is more likely that I will film a video, like on the weekends, or I work from home on Mondays, and so Mondays are a good day for me to do that. But otherwise, it's just kind of when I feel like doing it. And when it comes to deciding what to film, I do at this point have like two, no, maybe like four different 3 or 4 different series that I have that I know I will do at some point throughout the month, which I find really helpful. And most of them are ones that kind of go out in the beginning of the month. And I find that really helpful because sometimes the place where I struggle is when there aren't like tags going around, or I'm just not doing anything different per se with tarot at that moment. So
Right.
thinking of an idea of something to film, because I'll find myself like I'm kind of in that kind of period right now where I'm like, I want to make a video. I have no idea what I would talk about though. So having those series that they're pretty straightforward, and I know I will most likely do them every single month. It's helpful having that kind of schedule, but I don't really schedule it down to the day.
Yeah. Do you have a notebook of all your ideas of
I do.
yeah,
So
I
I
have one
actually
too. I was talking to a couple of other tarot people, and they also have one. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if everybody has one. So what do you
I
got?
think so, because so often I'll have an idea pop up in my head at the most random moments, and if I
Hmm.
don't write it down, I will not remember it. And I've had that happen so many times where I'm like, I'll remember it. Like, that's a cool idea. Of course
Yeah.
I'll remember it. And then it's gone. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't even get part of it back. Like, I don't, oh my gosh, if there was like a vault somewhere of all these ideas, that would be amazing. But I have this, it's just like a monthly
Okay.
like desktop calendar
Hmm.
that I write. It's a monthly. I said it's a monthly one, but I have at the top are all the ones that I know are going to happen every single month. So like favorites videos. I like showing which decks I've brought in over the last month. Those ones are happening every single month. Usually that first week, second week or so, and then It's just like I said, I don't really schedule myself very strictly,
Mhm.
but I find having this kind of time visual is helpful. So if I have an idea, I'll just write it somewhere in where, like, okay, this week I don't have anything planned, so I'll just write it on Monday because I know usually Monday's a good day for me to film, but if it happens on Tuesday, it happens on Tuesday. Like
Yeah,
that's okay,
I'm the
but
same way. I like to do most of mine give me 1 second. I I like to do most of mine on Saturdays
yeah.
because then I'm free for the rest of the week. But same experience as
Yes.
you where, "Oh my god, that would be a great video." "Yeah, I'll remember. How can I not remember that? That's just an amazing idea." And then I'm like, "Wow." And I always blame my age because I can't remember. But I went and bought a dedicated little notebook where I have all my ideas on on here,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
you know? And so, one of the and also I do like the idea of having a series, so I came up with hashtag Saturdays. So every Saturday, I know I will have a video out, and I have the so I pick 3 things. Either I pick a hashtag that was done several years ago that I bring back, because for me, they're
Yeah,
new. Uh,
right.
or I'll do a current one like the, one I did yesterday, which is Unicorn Dex 23, or I'll
Yeah.
create one. There goes that thumb again. Or I'll create one. And I have a one of 5 decks I would save, blah, blah, blah. Like 5 decks I would save from a fire, 5 tarot decks I would
Yes,
save.
yeah.
I have another one that I'm going to be doing this coming month.
Oh, how
So,
exciting.
and I like the picking 5 because it makes it really hard. Like somebody recently saw one of my videos. They said, "Benny, I only got it down to 8." And I was like, "No, you'll die. You have to bring it down to 5."
You have and I had that on my list of things because I wanted to do it, and I feel like I legitimately could not figure it out. I was like, "How do I bring it down to 5? Like,
Well,
what
for
do I
me,
do?"
the big secret for me in doing it was if it was really a fire, like or a flood was really happening, and I could only save 5 because that's all the time I got, and I got 2 dogs that are priority and whatever. The first place I would go to was my shelf. So what's on my shelf right now? What part of my shelf
Right.
is the most important part of my shelf? And that's where I would get my 5. So I know right off the bat it would come from these 2 these right off the bat.
The unicorn deck.
Yeah.
That's a great idea of organization too, of keeping them all together so it's kind of like if you did have to grab and
Mhm.
run, it's like, well, I know. I'm like the others, I'll figure it out. But these are the
Yep.
ones, which is a good point of like, can I get them again? And if the answer is like, like unless you want to spend like $300, no,
Yeah.
then that's the one to grab. Yeah,
So, yeah, I'd be interested to see what you come up with because you love your decks. You love your decks. You're always
I
like, "Oh my
do.
god, this deck," and then you'll go on this story with your decks. So, yeah, and it is challenging, but that's the point. The point is to make it super hard for you to kinda really sit down and, figure
Yeah,
it out.
and I think that'd be good. I'm actually gonna write that down now because I remember because I don't think I did do it. I remember I had it on my list of things to
Oh,
do, and I was like, I can't think of it. But now I can't remember if I'll have to check. See, I'm horrible at remembering like what videos did I
yeah.
do because I'll think about so many of them because it's just I just love to think about like especially when people put out tags. I
Mhm.
love a new way to categorize and like bring things together. And so even if I haven't done a response, I've thought about it and
Yeah.
like in depth in my head. But that's a good practice just in like gaining a scope over what I have.
Now, do you have ideas of other kind of series that you would like to do and have you ever had an idea where you thought, "Oh, I would like to do this, but I don't know how people would react to this," and decided not to do it?
Ooh.
Because I have one that I wanna do, but I don't wanna offend people.
I think I don't know if I've had some where it feels like I need to put more thought into it than
Mhm,
I generally would. Because
mhm,
most of the time it's like idea. cameras on and I'm just
Yeah.
doing it.
Yep. Yep, I'm the same
And
way.
then I pretty much just like upload it same day and I'm like, okay, that's done. But there are some where like, oh, like I have that semi kind of series of the tarot and neurodivergence where that one felt like before I put that first video up, there was thought into like how how is this going to be received?
Yes.
Um is is there a point to even doing it, to talking about this? I had no idea, but it came down to like it felt important for me to talk about it and I was like, well, worst case is if it gets received horribly, I just take it down.
Yeah.
And so I think what has continually not surprised me, but the thing I always come back to in my head is that
Mm.
I find the tarot tube community generally is so open and
Yes.
accepting and
Mhm.
the kindness always outweighs the any sort of negativity that I think when people are coming from a genuine spot with something, even if it is a topic that is maybe a little bit more touchy or just not commonly talked about, I think when it's coming from a certain place from that individual, I find that it gets received well. So I think with those things, I always try to just not think too hard
Yeah,
about
it's
it.
but it's hard because you don't wanna offend anybody, you don't want people to get
Right.
upset. Um,
Right.
I made a comment on one of my videos where I mentioned old lady tarot decks. It's not my style, it's an old lady tarot deck. And someone thought it was really funny, he said, "Benny, you should do a video of old lady decks." And
Yes.
I thought, "Yeah, I would love that. I would like to do, uh, of a series of different categories of decks that maybe I wouldn't like, that don't fit me." Like, there are some decks out there that I'm very surprised people love, and I'm like, "But that's a very old lady deck, and you're not an old lady."
And I think that would be so fun, first of all, because it's all you're coming at it in good fun. And I
Yeah,
think when it comes to like worrying about offending people, I think as long as, or at least from my experience, is that if I'm talking about myself and being very clear that this is coming from me and my
me, yeah.
feelings, like I'm never trying to speak for someone else or say this is what you should think, I think it's all fine.
Yeah.
And plus, with the old lady decks, you're gonna probably get half the people who are like, "Oh my gosh, this is so funny. I want to see this." And then the other half, oh, who I'm thinking of, Candy Soul and Soil recently said how she loves old lady decks. So you're gonna get her watching, being like, "Wait, I
Oh,
want to see what others I can get."
okay. Alright, yeah, because 'cause it's been lingering there for several months, but I haven't
I think
done
it'd
it
be so
because
fun.
I don't want I'm afraid of how it would be received, you know? And also because there's a couple of reasons. One is I don't think I'm old. Two, I'm not a lady. And so those kinds of things, maybe that would be funny coming from a younger woman instead of a younger man, you know? And so those are the kinds of things that go in my head. But it also shows you how I overthink things quite a bit.
I
I,
get it. I do too.
I'm a fuddy-duddy. Like one thing goes off and like it's a catastrophe.
I definitely get that. But I think it would be all in good
Good
fun,
fun,
and
yeah.
it's not like you said, you could have so many different categories you could go into that the old lady decks would be like one thing.
Yeah.
And then you can go on to something else and it's just your I think as long as you're clear of like this is my the personal way of seeing these things, I think it's all just fun. And like, cause I know what you mean by old lady decks, and I love them. And I'd be watching being like, one, this is so fun, but two, are there ones I don't have that I need to
Or no,
get?
or that's not an old lady deck. What is he talking about?
I think it starts like a fun discussion.
Um, do you have like a goal of how many videos you like to put out a week or a month, or is it just like you were mentioning earlier, I make it when I make it?
I do try and keep in mind that I like having 2 a week. If it doesn't happen, I try not to be hard on myself about it, but it more comes from a space of I know this is fun for me and that taking out the time to make videos is something that brings me a lot of joy and just feels necessary for my week kind of thing. Because it's like if I don't have the time to do it, then I'm like, ooh, I'm doing too much other stuff. Like I need to
Yeah.
examine that. So I like 2 a week. That's what I try for. Sometimes it'll be 3. Um, if I have like extra time on the weekends to film something, but 2 is usually my goal.
Yeah. I was doing Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, and then
Mhm.
I like to do three because it just feels like a good amount. But then sometimes it does feel like, God, that's a lot. Maybe two's enough. But then I'm like, two doesn't feel enough. And so I'm in this place. So now I'm just, whatever happens, happens. The only one that I like to get done no matter what is the hashtag Saturdays because I'm committed to doing it. And there are so many out there. So I
There
want to do as
are.
many as I can.
Yes, and resurfacing old ones is fun because
Yes.
I've even found like I like going back and whether I make it into a video or not, I like going back to the old hashtags and
Mhm.
just rethinking about it of like would I pick the same things now? Probably not.
Yeah, I think it would change. Like if a year from now, I think the five decks I would say from a fire, tarot decks I would say from a fire might be different. At least
Right.
one of them might be different. I know for a fact after my unicorn pull this year that that one would be definitely different. Very definitely different.
So neat.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
And when it comes to your decks, which is your most cherished deck and which do you find which is your most valuable deck?
Oh, oh my gosh,
I know you
most
have several.
I know it's so asking like a
Yeah.
one favorite.
Well, which deck do you
Yeah, I
tend to
guess
reach for the most? Right now. Which deck is the one that you're using quite a
oh,
bit?
that I'm using the most right now. Even that's hard to say because I'll use so many, even in one day, I'll use so many different decks. But the one I've been really enjoying right now is the Witch Sister Tarot. I've
Okay.
just been so blown away by this one.
Can I see a few
I
cards? I don't know.
yes. Oh yeah, this is a new one. It came out maybe November, December from Llewellyn.
Oh, I have seen this one. It is a
Yeah,
real
a lot
beautiful
of people
deck.
are loving this one right now, and
Yeah.
rightfully so. There's a lot in the cards to look at. There's a lot to get to in the guidebook, and it just has really captured my attention, and
Are there any men in this
I'm
deck?
loving it.
Oh,
Sorry?
there. Right when I asked you, are there any
Oh
men?
yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
see.
It is a decent-ish mix, I would say. I think like the classically male presenting cards still
Right.
are like we have the devil there. Um like the emperor and the kings are, but I do think the rest of it is more feminine presenting because there is that theme of like witch sister
Yeah.
is my assumption on why that is, but
It makes sense. The title makes
there are
sense.
some male figures in there. But yeah, this has been the one that for the last few months since I've had it, I've just been loving this one.
Now, you mentioned something that I'm curious about. You said that throughout the day you'll use different decks. So, how often are you
Yes.
playing with your decks throughout the day? Because I thought that was a very interesting comment.
Oh, it all depends. So I do a morning reading
Mm-hmm.
every morning, usually without fail. I'd have to be traveling somewhere where there just isn't a good place to do it, but even so, I try and make the time to do it. It just is a good routine for me. And then oftentimes a, I'll bring a deck to work with me that either is new and I'm trying to get to know. Most of the time, that's kind of what it is. Or I have here, oh, I just got a new Peggy bag for it. Just my Rider Waite Smith that I'll bring.
Okay.
And I like, when I get to work, not every day, but when I can, I like just pulling a single card to kind of set the tone for what my work day is gonna look like. Um, I use tarot a lot for transitioning throughout my day. So,
Okay.
because that's something that I can kind of have a hard time with, like going from home to work. Like, it's a different mindset, different actions involved there, and that sort of shift can be hard for me. But for some reason, just the act of sitting and shuffling and pulling a card, it's like now it's almost like this transition into doing
Mhm.
something new. Um, and then sometimes that's it for the day, just depending. But I also am a member of Dawn Michelle's YouTube membership, and
Mhm.
she has a whole tarot practice there. So a couple days a week, there's readings I do for that. And just when I get home from work, whether I'm doing a reading or not, I like just sitting and shuffling.
Okay.
So I just kind of always, there's something always out that I'm looking at or playing with.
Now, I have questions that pop up, and I don't want to forget any of them. So I'm really curious. How do you manage your budget with as many decks that come out or as many decks as you have? Because I think a lot of us, we really get caught up. Like my first year, I really got caught up with buying deck after deck after deck, and I had a
Yeah.
big budget. And so, how do you manage that for yourself?
So what I came up with, or like what I do, I should say, is that my Etsy shop, which I make crochet tarot bags to sell, my Etsy shop is my what I call my fun money.
Okay.
And so, because I work full time as a librarian, and that's the way I can make the distinction in my head is like, as I mean, I love my librarian job. I have fun there, but it still is a job.
Right.
It's still work. And so that money is for like the like boring adulting stuff. The things that we have to
Right.
do. And
Rent,
then with my
electricity.
Etsy shop, since the crochet is fun for me, the money from my earnings from there go into a completely separate bank account that I have set up just for that. And so pretty much the money that goes in there, I know like that's my budget for decks. So
Okay.
in a way it's kind of all up to me of like, if there's something I want to get, then either I have to save the money in there or I know like okay, I need to make some more bags to sell because I know I'm going to want to get this thing, and it's just keeping it very separate in that way is helpful for me. And I think even if I didn't have the Etsy shop, I think it's somewhere I would have landed of just in general, it's nice having since I have a hard time with numbers and budgeting really honestly, like it's
Mhm.
just keeping track of all that does not make sense to me and I just
Yeah.
can't keep up with it. So having this like separate bank account of like this is the fun money of like even if it ended up being like okay, I know every month from my paycheck I can put like this much into there.
Yeah.
Just knowing like this is what I have is helpful.
Yeah. Right now, I don't really have a budget. As long as I can pay my bills, right? I don't
Right.
really stress over it. Now, if I'm having to postpone a bill because I bought some decks, I have a problem. So,
And
uh,
I think that's fair. I think, knowing that you can live your life comfortably,
mhm.
then yeah, my view on it is like if you have the money for it and it's going to bring you joy, then why
Do it.
not?
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
My brother has been mortified at how much I've paid for decks.
Because he's not in the world, he can't
Yeah.
get it, you know?
And so he's a numbers person. I said, "Well, Mario, you gotta realize that some of these decks, they're hard to come by, and people I will get my money back, if not more, because the further we go out in time, there'll be less and less available." And so he's like, "Okay." Then he thinks
Right.
it's
Some
okay.
things are investments like the Baba Studios decks.
Yes.
They've already shown that, you know, they're a lot upfront to buy it even brand new.
Mhm.
But they are always going to, because they're always this kind of limited edition, and
Mhm.
even when there's multiple print runs, they always make something different, that there's always going to be added value to it.
And then they also wait a very long time before they print again. So they've made an announcement that they're leaving the tarot business.
I saw that.
And I'm like, okay. So what I've been doing is anything that comes out, I try to get two of them. So
Oh,
so like when they did the Bohemian Gothic, I ordered only one, but knowing that this is the last one, I need to get a backup because like, one, what if something happens to mine? But two, what if there becomes another unicorn deck in the future that I want? I can have something to barter with.
oh, that's smart.
So I have them coming today, and then next week the Tarot Prague.
I did see that, and I think they said they're doing another print of Victorian Romantic.
Yes, yes, they are. I already have that one, but I'm really excited about the
Yeah, me
Tarot
too. Me
Prague.
too. I
That's
know
the
the
one
Tarot
that I
Prague.
really, really want. But I am going to get a second one of the Victorian because of the fact I already have one. And I want to back up. And yeah, the Tarot Prague. Knowing them, they're only going to allow you to buy one. But these are going to be the last printings of them.
I know, and I actually didn't even know about the Tarot of Prague until very recently. I saw it in someone's video and I was like, "Oh, that's so beautiful." And then I didn't remember it on their initial list of what they said they were reprinting, so I was like, "Well,
Mhm.
bummer, okay." But then I saw that update on their Facebook. I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay."
I'm
I have to
definitely
pay
going to buy it.
attention
And
this
then
week.
they posted, I can't remember if it's on their blog or website. A gentleman actually created this map of where all those cards are from.
Oh, how cool.
I know, very, very cool. And then I think he talks about each one, he kind of expands on it. And then
Neat.
there's a woman named Kathy that works at Baba Studios that I email back and forth with her. And I asked about the Alice Tarot because it was supposed to come out last year. And she said that it's highly likely will come out in 2025, which I think will be the last deck that they print.
I'm so glad that one is coming back though, because that's probably, I mean, the Tarot of Prague, I will probably get if I can because it just is really beautiful. But it's not one that's been in my realm
Yeah.
of knowing long. But the Alice one is one, probably the only other one now that I'm like, man, I wish I had that.
The Are you going to get the Bohemian Cats?
Probably.
I was like, I thought when you said you love cats, I was like, I wonder if she'll get that. I will probably. I'm not into cat decks and stuff, but I'll probably get it because it's a Baba Studios tarot deck, and so I want it for the
Yeah.
collection. You know, so
Yeah.
the only one that I think a true. So there are some really true blue or unicorn decks, like the very rare, the ones that are really super expensive. Um, that I would like to get just for the collection is the Fairy Tale Tarot from Baba Studios.
I am actually really not familiar with that one. And I think I heard about it and knew that it was not available. And sometimes when I just don't even look cuz I'm like I don't
Yeah.
I don't need to have that in my universe of knowing, but I mean it sounds like it would be really beautiful.
Now, you had mentioned Don Michelle and the membership. How many memberships are you with in the Tarot 2 community? I have three that I'm in.
Four.
You're at four?
Four.
I have
Yeah.
Don Michelle. I wanna do the one that she started with, the dice. I got some really pretty dice and everything, and I have yet to do it. I got Lisa Papez, and Fairlight Tarot. Those are the 3 that I'm with.
Ooh,
What
I
do you
think
got?
I must have frozen for a second. I heard you have Don Michelle. Who else are you in?
Lisa Papez and Fairlight Sylvia from Fairlight Tarot.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who are you with?
I'm in Don Michelle's membership, Lisa Papez, Danny Mystic, Thea from Garden Goddess Tarot, and I'm in. It's not a YouTube membership, but I count it as such. I'm in Cosmic Creeper's Patreon
Okay,
for the animal gnosis practice.
okay. What do they offer for you that you really enjoy?
I really Danny Mystic she gives a lot of extra content. She will do monthly readings that are really fun. Um what I've really been enjoying is she is teaching us her method of reading with playing cards, which is something that's new for me. So that I really enjoy. And Thea, oh, there's lots of like different little things she does. We get extra content, which is always fun. She does kind of a month ahead look when we enter new zodiac signs. And with Thea's, there's a Discord too, which I love when there's different Discords to join.
I don't get the whole Discord thing. Is that like,
I have trouble keeping up with it. I like having it there, but I tend to be a bit of a lurker in them.
so, yeah, I'm gonna have to check them out because it's month by month, so I'm gonna see if they have content that I like. But I like Fairlight. She does these beautiful readings, and she takes her time with them.
Awesome.
So you don't get like a 2, 3 minute reading. You'll get like a 15, 20 minute reading. She'll
Wow,
pull,
that's
she'll pull
great.
the she'll pull the cards out. She'll spread them out. She'll pull the cards. I mean, and she'll throw extra cards if she needs to. So even for just that alone, for me, it's worth it. And then we're gonna be doing a deep dive on Yoki tarot decks, like the Yokai
Cool.
Yochi. We're gonna be doing a deep dive on that one in February, and I have that
Oh,
deck, so I'm really
neat.
excited about that one. And then of
Yeah,
course
that's really
Lisa
cool.
and Dawn, which I think most people are probably members of. Did you see Dawn? Lisa's getting a book out.
I know. I'm so excited about that. It looks like it's
Yeah,
gonna be awesome.
she's going to be another Rachel Pollack in the future.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. She's just extremely likable. She feels like a friend on film. It's so knowledgeable. So
Yeah,
yeah, she's amazing. So
she
what other
is.
tarot tube channels do you really like to follow?
Ooh, I follow a lot.
Yeah, I have
I'm
about
trying
a
to think.
75 that I think I
Yeah,
follow.
yeah. Anytime I see anyone talking about tarot, like that they have kind of a, even if it's just like mostly focused on tarot, I just subscribe because I just like watching
Yeah.
everything. Um, ooh, who have I been watching a lot of recently? I love watching Marlena's channel, Marlena
Yeah.
Teresa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
She's
haven't
been
seen a
making
lot of her
really
videos. I've just
perfect
started watching
videos.
her
Um,
recently, and she uses a lot of like astrology and stuff, which is way over my head. But
yeah.
she has really good content. There's several. I still watch a lot of videos from Katie Flowers.
Yeah, she has a lot of great videos. I'm glad she left them up.
Yeah, and she's still on YouTube, except she's doing books now.
Yes, right, the books.
So a few more questions that I have are: what are your next endeavors when it comes to your tarot channel? Anything coming up for you that you'd like to share with everybody?
Ooh, next endeavors. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah,
I have my two oracle decks that I've put out within the last over the last like 2 years of creating and then putting them out. And so I just wrapped up kind of the first pre-order and now second pre-order of my latest one. And I'm not exactly sure if I have any specific goals of things that I want to do this year. I'm kind of like letting that ride out a little bit and then see from there.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to talk about are the 2 decks that you created, because I think that's amazing that you created your decks.
Oh, thank you.
So I mean, come on, that's a big deal being able to create a deck. So can you just tell us about the 2 decks that you have and how they came about? And what I really want to know is, how did you decide on like the themes and like choosing the words and production? Like, can you give us a rundown of how that worked for you?
Sure. Yeah, I have them. Let me grab them both. So the two I
I
have my
love the divine ephemera. I say that wrong all the time, but I love that deck.
Thank you. My first one I put out is the Cottage Witch Oracle, which
Hmm.
has now grown and expanded and kind of became this organic thing. And this one, the idea really came from I loved having decks that felt really kind of like cozy, witchy, with correspondences and just all of these different things. Really, my inspiration came from the Memento Mori Oracle.
Okay.
I just love the setup of that, but and I love that deck, and but it was always this thing of like, I really love this deck, and I would love to kind of have something that feels similar, just in the way of this collection of odds and ends and things, but have it be kind of tailored to kind of my own practice and my own associations. And so that was really where the spark came from. And so what the Cottage Witch Oracle really is a culmination of things that either I use or see or have associations with kind of just in my day to day that I just mentally have associated this magical thing with. And the idea behind it is really taking these kind of everyday items or commonly, at least commonly seen by me, animals or plants, and making it something magical by adding a very specific keyword to it. So that was also something I wanted to do with this oracle, is be very distinct on a keyword instead of just showing the object, and kind of having it be what it is for different people. It kind of felt like this thing I wanted to theme around my own practice, I guess. And so my initial goal with it was to, with both of the decks actually, was just a tool for myself. Not even having the intention of offering it to others necessarily. It's
Mhm.
both ideas very much were like the goal was like my own use. And then it's just as I shared it and other people were interested in it, I was like, "Oh, well, okay, I guess I guess I can do that too. That's cool."
What a beautiful compliment, no?
Yes, oh, it still baffles me, and I think because I the seed of these projects were something for me for my own use that I only ever thought was going to make sense in my own head. It's I don't think we'll ever stop being this like beautiful confusing feeling almost of when I see it on Instagram or see it in someone's video and hear how they are using it. It's this like super cool thing of like, I just can't even believe that someone liked it that much to like
Yeah.
to buy it, and like that
Yeah,
it's
and
making sense, like
I think it's a great
wild.
compliment, because this is how I view it. People are spending their hard-earned money on your product. That
Yes.
is a big investment, because they're taking that from something else. I mean, and I think that so when I found out that you had created these and people were buying them, I thought, what an amazing experience it must have been.
It is, and still it's like this I use the word confusing, but I don't mean it in a negative way. It's just this like I
Surreal.
think it never stops being surprising of like you said, people are spending their hard-earned money. Like this makes sense to other people
Mhm.
to the extent that they want to buy it is just something that I'm always like, wow, like, that's crazy.
Did you see Don Michelle's, walkthrough of your deck?
Of the
It
Cottage
was
Witch
the divine ephemer how do you say it?
ephemera.
Yeah, I don't know if she did a full walkthrough, but she talks about your deck and goes over the cards and what she loved about them, and she mentions you by name and, so yeah, Don Michelle
Oh,
did that.
was that in the membership video?
I believe so, I believe so. It's been
Yes, I that was a whole oh my gosh, I had such a moment of like, no way. Because
yeah.
especially since it was just such a compliment because she is a graphic designer. And so
Mhm.
me coming at this of like, I have no like formal collage experience other than just like messing around on the computer as a child. Like
Yeah. She spoke
it's
very
just
highly of the deck and talked about the images and how it was put together, and I will literally tell you, I was sitting there going, "Why can't I do that? I can never do something like so beautiful like that," and
you
I
could,
had
but
this
you could.
but I had this moment of, like, I wouldn't say it was envy or jealousy, but it was this sense of, like, I wanna be able to do that too, because it is a really beautiful deck, and I look at how the images are put together, and aesthetically, it is just really beautiful, and
Thank
so,
you.
um, now are you gonna do more printings?
Yes, my intention with the both of them is not to have them be out of print by any means. I realize I do these kind of small pre-orders, so it seems like it adds this air of like it being exclusive, but that's not my intention. It's purely just a thing of doing it in this pre-order way, but doing it in the pre-order way because both of them I get them printed through Make Playing Cards,
Mhm.
which there is the option for me to be very hands off and just have a storefront through
Yeah.
that. But what I have found is that if I do kind of a series of pre orders, it allows the deck to be cheaper for
Mhm.
everyone. And I do kind of like the hands on aspect of it because I think because it is so surreal to me that people want it.
Yeah.
It's cool for me to see like, oh my gosh, I have this like box of packages going out. Like that's it just is still I think will always be really cool for me to see that, but really the big thing is that it is so much more cost efficient for the people buying the deck
Yeah.
by probably a good 10 to $20, which I think is
Wow.
significant.
That
So
is significant.
that's kind of why I do it that way, but I tend to do a pre-order every few months.
Do you, plan to write a guidebook for them at all, or do you want them to stand alone and people be able to use their intuition with it?
I do have both of them do have a guidebook. The Cottage Witch one, if you just buy the deck, you will get a PDF guidebook
Oh,
just
okay.
for free.
Okay.
Um, and then if someone wanted to, I offer a printed guidebook. I'll do pre-orders for those as well. And that guidebook is more extensive because like I said, it's these associations with things that are a bit more particular to me, and that was my idea behind
Mm.
it,
Mhm.
of it really reflecting my own use and my own mm, use of it. And the things in the Cottage Witch are things that it's kind of like I have extensive practice or experience of these associations, and so I offer that for if someone wants that. But then I do feel like there's still the option of seeing just the object and the keyword and taking it somewhere that they want to. And the Divine Ephemera comes with a smaller printed guidebook, so that is just always with it. And that is not, the guidebook for that is purposefully not extensive. So for each, I'll take a card out to just give an example. So in the guidebook, there is just a little quick explanation of who the divine figure is, and I'm pretty sure for all of them there it should be there, but the pantheon or culture it comes from. And then for the plants, I put down just a list of keywords that either I just personally have that association with them, but when it comes to plants and working with them, it's something that's still new to me.
Right.
So even if it's my own association, most likely it's something I have read somewhere else and I'm just not
Okay.
remembering where, or it's coming from the Victorian language of flowers. And so that's all that's in the guidebook, because my initial purpose with this, as I said, both of them, the seed of the idea was being a tool for myself, was I'm fascinated by the way that different divine figures throughout all these different pantheons, and I really only have like two or three pantheons included in this, is how they are so connected to nature and natural forces and used as this explanation for them. I just think it's so interesting, and how for most of them there is this tie to certain plants, flowers, and I just, something about that really interests me. So I kind of made this as a tool for drawing those connections between these divine figures that I personally just enjoy, work with. They all reflect cultures that I can connect ancestry to. That was something that was important to me because I didn't want to speak on any cultures that I have no business speaking on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's all divine figures that I can kind of tie to in that way, that I have interest in that way, and just either plants that are connected to them like in a well-known way, like narcissus and daffodil is like there's a direct tie there, or they're ones that just through exploring a little bit about the divine figure and then a little bit about the plant, it's like, oh, there's a connection there, there's a theme there going on. And so the guidebook is minimal because this is something I'm learning. I
Okay.
don't know too much about it, but at the same time, I also felt this thing of, especially when we're talking about divine energy, it's so big and there's so much to look at. It felt like this thing of who am I to give someone the way they should be working with and the way they should be looking at that. So even if it was a divine figure that I know a lot about and I've kind of worked with that energy extensively, it didn't feel right for me to give all of this information of how I see them and how I work with them when it is such a personal experience and can be taken in so many different directions. It felt more like, I don't know how to explain it other than it
Well,
feels like these decks like take on a bit of a life of their own, and this
yes.
one just felt like it needed to be almost a tool for personal exploration.
Okay. No, I thought you explained it really well. Like, so I get it. It makes sense to me. It's like you were opening a door for people to be able to walk into and experience whatever it is that they need to experience with each of the cards.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's
So I got
exactly
it.
it.
I got it. I got it. And then how long did it take you? Two questions with the decks. How long did it take you to create the decks? And when did you know, okay, I don't need to add any more cards?
So Cottage Witch was really fast. That was a really, I guess, in my own head, I feel like it was fast. It probably took, for completing the original deck, because it has some expansions at this point. Um, I want to say maybe 2 months to complete all of the. I think there was 54 cards.
Okay.
I think maybe not 54, maybe 60. I don't know. I don't remember.
Right.
This
That's right.
is so bad.
It's not
But
a quiz.
that original deck, probably 2 months to complete the deck images, and I think it was because I was pulling on these things, and it's like I know what this. I got this. I know what this is. It's all things I'm familiar with. The keyword was like instantaneous because it was my connection to
Yeah,
that thing.
that makes sense.
And so the answer to the second question, as I've kind of hinted at, since there is these expansion packs that come with it, is that it doesn't. This is one that feels like it's almost never quite done because it does reflect my own practice, that's always evolving and changing and adding things and taking things away, that it's become this organic thing where now this is all the cards together, but it's split in two inside that bag because I have basically like my working deck and then a stack of extra cards. So it
Okay.
just kind of changes as the seasons change, as what I'm doing changes. Um the Divine Ephemera took longer. I want to say the process of making the card images, probably 5 or 6 months. And that was like the initial go around. Then I got my first sample copy, and it wasn't right.
Mm.
So then I changed around some of the images. Some things were like blurry, or I just didn't like how it came out when it was printed. So I changed it around, probably took another month or two, then got it printed again. And then still it was like, this isn't right. And it was really interesting because it was so different than my experience with Cottage Witch, where that one felt like boom, 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 like here it is. This one, it felt really like, I think ended up getting 3 different test prints of it before it felt like, okay,
Okay.
this is good how it is. I don't need to add anything to it. I don't need to change anything to it. This is good. But it took 3 different tries before it got to that space, because it's like every time, even if I couldn't quite put my finger on it, it was like it just didn't feel ready to be in the world.
One, you're a creator, and two, you're an artist. And I think that thing that you were feeling, it's just not quite right, is the artist part within you, letting you know that we need to work on this a little bit. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
And you won't believe what I just did. On your screen, do we look different now? On the right hand
I don't
side,
think.
okay, on the right hand side, on my side, I could see like the volume, and I could see all these knobs and stuff that you can play with. I'm glad you can't see it on your side, but I'm curious to know if it's going to show up in my video of us, if it's going to be on there the whole time. So I'm going to have to figure out if I can cut it out. But
Oh, I don't see it. Maybe
yeah,
I feel like it won't come out because I don't see it.
yeah, it would be interesting to see. Well, I
Yes.
really appreciate you coming on. I,
Thank you so much for
I
having me.
have loved doing these. I'm getting to talk to other tarot tubers, getting to hear their experiences about their channel. It's just a different way to kind of interact because, seeing y'all on my television, sometimes I want to know more. Sometimes I want to get to have this conversation, but you don't. And you want to, and so
Right.
this really, I created this series so that I would have that opportunity to get to know y'all better, and also for people to kind of get to know us a little bit better outside of just creating videos for the decks themselves.
Yes, yeah, no, I think this series idea you have is so fun, and I'm so honored to be on it, first of all, but just also as a viewer, I have loved watching them. They're so much fun to watch.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, and so on ours, I'm gonna go through the whole thing because, like I said, I'm interested to see how they record and go together. But this has been a lot of fun. You're so easy to talk to.
Oh, you too. Thank you.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Hope you had a great day. Hopefully, you learned a thing or two. Maybe you enjoyed us with a cup of coffee. And until next time, my name is Benny, and I'm the Fool's Apprentice. Bye.